Hi, it's Kevin and Shelley here from the awareness.website, and on this video today we're going to go over a few things. We're going to recap what we went over last weekend, or last week video, and we're going to get into a little more with the identities, observation of the identities.
The supposed to's and not supposed to's.
We're going to share that secret answer with you about the collective identities. Yeah. And the supposed to and not supposed to's of the identity, and how to recognize that, how to kind of get into that a little bit. And
are they supported or not supported?
And figuring out or learning to find out what your supposed to story is.
In our last video, Introduction to the Identities, we basically talked about what an identity is, how we create them, and gave some examples of how they may act in our daily lives. We all have similar stories, different characters. There's the different categories of identities and some examples. There are personal identities, where we touched on the looks, social identities of getting married and living happily ever after, group identities, we talked about the biker group and the hippie group, and collective identities. We give you the question of how attractive do you think you are on a scale of 1 to 10. Identities will do anything to be right. With the identities, there is no logic. It's only about survival for the identities. When more than one identity comes up at the same time, we experience conflict. We gave the example of a biker identity and a priest friend identity coming up at the same time. Remember, there is no right, there is no wrong. Everyone runs identities. It's about becoming aware of what identities you have. Start to view situations from the perspective that you're just running an identity. There is no guru. Don't give your power away. Learn to empower yourself. Recognize we have teachers, but don't immortalize them. Don't make them more special. Take responsibility for what you have created. Once again, there is no right or wrong. Mr. Moy had information and knowledge that benefited him and saw how it could benefit others as well. His efforts were geared towards sharing this knowledge with everyone who wanted it. Identities affect our bodies and our health in a lot of different ways. Tai Chi is a tool to help bring us to the space of awareness of what's going on in our bodies, where we can begin to pay attention and become aware of what's going on with our body through the Tai Chi. Looking at everything from the perspective that it's just an identity will help with the personal ouchiness of all that's happening at that moment.
Okay, so here we are. I'm sure everyone has been waiting for, well, it'll be 2 weeks now, I guess.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks for that collective answer. And the collective answer is?
Well, what's the question first?
Oh, what's the question?
Yeah. So the question was, on a scale of 1 to 10, how attractive do you think you are?
And the collective answer is 7.
7. 90% or something like that of people who are asked that question respond with a 7.
Yeah, 7. So some of the questions we have for you are, what number did you pick? Was it 7?
And why do you think you picked that number? You could have picked any number. And I mean, obviously everybody would have their own view of how attractive they think they are, but why do so many people pick the number 7?
Yeah, 90% of,
and why did you pick number 7? So, very interesting question.
And to us, it gets us to that, believe it or not, we're just tapped into this collective identity. And really, it's not like we walk around going, oh, hi, I'm a 7. We're probably not even thinking it, but somewhere in there we are.
So somehow everybody en masse has the idea that they are a 7. And so where does that collective idea come from? How do so many people end up with that same identity viewpoint of themselves, of being a 7 out of 10?
And it's a collective identity that we're just tapped into, and there's no right or wrong about it. It's just to be aware that actually our energy is being, used up in all these different identities, and that's just one of the collective ones it's being used as.
Yes. So we're supposed to be about a 7.
According to the identity.
Yeah, according to the identities.
Yes, we're touching on the collective identities, and that rating ourselves as a 7, or mass population for the most part 90% do. Another one is winning $1 million. So many people, it's not winning, $9,482 or something, or it's always $1 million.
If I had $1 million.
Yeah, there's a song about that.
Yeah.
But it's another collective. It's just people, well, if I had $1 million, I would do this. If I won $1 million, it's always like, it's that
So
1 million.
Somehow $1 million has become a magical number, and that now whether, it's perceived as that's what will fix everything, $1 million, but how do we perceive that? Like, how is it that figure has become the benchmark for overcoming all our obstacles or whatever? Now, of course, the lotteries are so much more, so maybe that's upping the ante a little bit. But
still, people talk about that million.
So many people.
In that mindset.
And there's that song that if I had $1 million.
That's an old song, though.
It's an old song. Okay.
That's for you old timers over there on that side of the deck here.
Wait a minute. You're going to fire up an identity here. Cut it out.
Okay, so we've had the recap, and we've given you that collective number, and then so now we're going to start talking about we all have our own way of dealing with the identities, basically. Some of us get so when our identities come up, some of us get mad, some of us get angry, some of us get sad.
And some of us just want to hide or be invisible, just kind of get away from whatever. And sometimes a combination of it all. I mean, certainly there's emotions, and we tend to have a favorite emotion that we want to go to deal with the identity or to support the identity and somehow make it right. So if we get mad, we'll be able to make this right. We'll be able to defend our position or something, or we get sad and we get sympathy and therefore make our position right, or if we're just not there, then we can't be wrong at all. Like, there's nobody to challenge us, so it works out good that way too.
And the problem is the identities get to keep on running. Like, they just it's not that there's one way or the other. Once again, there's no right or wrong in any of this. It's just to discover and learn for yourself what it is that you're doing, and start to pay attention to, okay, when my identities are, going on. Personally, I'm a person that gets sad. I'm one of the sad people, and nothing wrong with that. It's just to be aware of, oh, okay, yeah, I'm being sad. What's going on? Yeah, all right, got an identity running, and that's basically what it's all about. So.
Yeah, and it's learning to recognize that, but when you're in the middle of it, when you're being sad or being angry, and like for me, anger seems to work, and it's not that it's right or wrong, but according to the identity, it has to be right. So you have to run that emotion in order to be right. And no matter what anybody says, and it would seem that they're just trying to make you wrong. If they were trying to counter it or show something,
make the identity wrong.
Make the identity wrong.
It's not you.
Yes, and so your identity's on the defense, and it's going to do whatever it can to be right all over again.
And it is. We've said that before. That's all the identity wants. It wants to survive, and it always wants to be right. So, in its moment of anger, it's right. In its moment of sadness, it's right. So don't have anybody come and challenge it, because it's like, you're trying to take that survival mode or the...
And it's not just anger or sadness. I mean, some people would respond with their identity to be happy. Like they're going to be, they're just going to get like super happy. And that'll make their identities right there. Some people use that emotion to get what the identity wants. Make that supposed to come true. And again, you go to the not supposed to.
Yeah, and that's what we can talk about. Yeah, there's a supposed to and a not supposed to. There's always these, yeah.
And usually the biggest reactions come from when things are happening, and the best way to get an indication of that is what is not supposed to be happening here. What are you telling yourself that this is not supposed to happen?
Or what is supposed to happen?
Well, you've got a supposed to going on, but usually we react to this is not supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So usually we project it outside. So they are not supposed to be doing this to me. Or that is not supposed to be happening. That guy cutting through traffic ahead of me and honking, he's not supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a response, a reaction to it.
So you're supposed to is he's supposed to drive and he's supposed to behave himself, you know, in the line of traffic.
Not supposed to take up 4 parking spots in the parking lot. Those parking pirates, you know, they're not supposed to be like that. They're
And it does. It actually triggers quite a few people on somebody that is a parking pirate, which personally I am a parking pirate. I don't take up 4 spots, but I take up 1 and a little bit extra always. And
and that's an indication. Like if you're having a reaction to a not supposed to, that's an indication of an identity that's happening, an identity that's coming up, and it's causing you to react and have conflict with what's happening.
Yeah. And it wants to be right still. That identity still wants to be right, period. No matter what.
Yeah. And yeah, there's all kinds of things all kind of crazy things that happen with it. And it's not easy. I mean, as simple as it is, I mean, you can sit here and explain it and talk about it. Simple as it is, it's not easy to turn that off and have that observational point where you can say, hey, look, I'm just reacting. I'm reacting to a not supposed to, or I'm trying to hold on to a supposed to story. So you've got a story running that tells you how things are supposed to go. And where that story comes from is a lifetime of experiences, a lifetime of something has happened, and there's confirmation later on down the road. And so we build this story about ourselves and all our supposed to's. So when these things happen, this is supposed to happen. Or when this is going on, this is supposed to happen.
And it's all fine if...
we all love our stories.
Yeah, well, we do. And if everything is, okay, well, yes, I'm supposed to go and, you know, have this happen at the store and get in your vehicle and find the perfect parking spot and this and this and this and this. And it's all great. Nowhere in there are you triggered at all. So life is good. Life is great. You know, nobody looks at that as running an identity, although actually you are, because it's part of your, you know, supposed to story. But it's when you leave your house, you get in your vehicle, you don't find a parking spot.
Or your car doesn't start. Or you get out of the car and it rains and you didn't bring an umbrella. Well, it's not supposed to rain.
Yeah. So then that's when the conflict starts to come up. So it can be around anything. And so that's where we talk about whether your story is, and the identities are supported or not supported. And because we can have all kinds of supported identities. And like I say, then we just think life's great, everything's happy. But we're not realizing the energy that we're still using, you know,
to maintain those identities.
Absolutely, yeah. Like it's just incredible the amount of energy, you know, of our energy source that we have, that we use up just in these, you know, identities of the, you know, supposed to, not supposed to, supported, not supported. You know, either way, they're all still, you know, using up, you know, our resource of our energy type of thing.
Right, and we don't recognize it, or we don't have a problem with that. I mean, we're happy with the identities running if they're being supported and everything's going the way it's supposed to. But the conflict comes in is when that story is interrupted. So when there's something happens that's not supposed to happen, that's where the conflict comes in. That's where we start to have the problems. But regardless, that's only an indication that you're running the identities. You have all these thoughts and that are supporting these stories. You're constantly talking to yourself to tell yourself that yes, this story is the way it's supposed to be going. And we constantly remind ourselves.
And there's people that are actually, because I've even had people, like I've shared with them, okay, well, this is one of the identities, you know, that you're running, and, you know, if you want to, because they're talking about how tired they are and, you know, just not a lot of energy and different things like that. So, you know, I'll share with them, okay, well, take a look at some of your identities that, you know, you are running. And then, yeah, the identities just, they're on the on the defense instantly, and then they just like, well, they're my identities and I like them, you know.
Yes.
So then, you know, they're okay. They're justifying that. Okay, yeah, I'm good with my identity, which okay, that's fine, you know. And like I say, no judgment on, you know, our part whatsoever. It's more of the, you know, if you're tired, take a look at, you know, maybe why you're tired.
Yeah, and for certain, like that justification, that's something that we do to try and gain that support back. Like we will justify our actions, we will justify everything, and we'll have a great story to support it. But it comes down to, once again, key thing being is we're running an identity. And to tie in the Tai Chi with it, that as a tool, the Tai Chi helps you to quiet down those thoughts. You're focusing on what your body's doing, you're focusing on you know, doing, you know, getting the form happening, you're focusing on feeling on what's going on inside, so these thoughts quiet down. Now for some people, you know, while you're doing your Tai Chi, you may have all kinds of thoughts going on, especially in the beginning stage. You're trying to remember, what did my instructor say, what am I supposed to do, what's the next move, all this kind of stuff. But as you get more familiar with it, get more comfortable with it, you want to start shutting all that off. And that's part of the Taoist philosophy, and part of the internal development is quieting down those thoughts so that the body can function normally and properly. And that, again, using that as a tool to help you start to recognize, because you'll start to identify the thoughts that are going on for you in a very simple and relaxed manner. And of course, later on, hopefully you can apply that to when you're in the thick of things and the identities are going full force, and you'll be able to say, oh, hey, wait a minute, let's calm this down and take a look at it.
That is the tough part, absolutely, because we've been doing this kind of work for a long time, and hey,
it still gets us too.
Absolutely. And that was actually one of the biggest things, because we're just like, well, we've been doing this so long, you know, we're supposed to not
supposed to have it figured out.
We're supposed to not be being triggered. So we're running these huge identities around all the supposed to's that, yeah, we're supposed to have this all. And yeah, no, believe me, Kevin has no, myself too.
And that's the thing, like, you can very easily start to create an identity about what you're supposed to be doing. So you're supposed to be such and such a kind of person, a spiritual person or a Tai Chi person or whatever, and you can start to create an identity around how you're supposed to be like that. And you start to build the story, and you start to build all the little characteristics that you think are supposed to be there. And of course, all you've done is create another identity.
Yeah.
And so now that
drains your energy. That's, once again, that's the problem with the identities. It's you know, there's some beneficial identities, and there's definitely lots of non-beneficial identities. And it's to take a look at, you know, the beneficial identities and try to, you know, stick with them with the awareness, though, that yes, it's an identity, although it's a beneficial identity, but not that, okay, you know, you've reached some plateau or something. It's just the fact of, you know, like the Tai Chi, for example, of, you know, doing the Tai Chi, you know, it's beneficial. If you need to do that, you know, and run that identity, that's fine, but you don't need to be the Tai Chi Kung Fu master,
guru or whatever yes.
It all is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just more of the fact of doing, you know, Tai Chi or whatever it is, but it's still always look at everything from the perspective and identity, because everything is.
Yeah, and being able to recognize those identities, recognize the conflict that's happening, and when you can do that, that gives you the opportunity to choose whether you want to run that identity or not. So you can continue, carry on.
That's right.
But with an awareness, again, that's what this is all about, is that awareness, so that you're having the ability to choose through awareness what you are doing, and being able to let go of that conflict.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things. If you want to run the identity, go right ahead. We're not saying, hey, don't run any identities, because some identity of some sort is going to be ran anyways. But it's just being aware of, once again, the beneficial and the non-beneficial. But if you want to run a non-beneficial identity, go for it. Absolutely. Just know that that's what you're doing, and then be aware of the consequences. And that's kind of like we said, you know, being aware and having awareness is, is two different things.
Yeah, there's a difference.
And know what you're doing, but know why you're doing it. It's, a lot of us are just on autopilot, it seems like. The identities, we've just let them run for so many years, and yeah, it's like a bunch of children all totally out of control, because they have their little temper tantrums, and oh my goodness, yeah. And,
yeah, we've been running a lot of these stories almost right from day one. We've been building these stories, building these identities. So yeah, autopilot, I mean, this is just the way we're supposed to be. This is who I am.
That's right.
And anytime there's...
That's a great example, yeah, of some of the people that, there's people around that, they say, oh, well, let's say George, for example. George keeps doing this.
And if your name's George, we're not talking about you.
Maybe we are. But, it's just so many... George is acting in a certain... manner or behavior, and he just keeps on doing it and doing it again, and then everybody around is, oh, that's just George, and it's like they're justifying, oh, that's just George, and that's okay because that's just George.
But then it gives George no opportunity whatsoever to look at what he's doing as just being an identity. He's locked into that identity, and everybody supports it and endorses it, so that George can just continue on with that behavior. If you point it out to him, George will become threatened.
Yeah, George's identity. That identity.
George's identity, because now it's not being supported.
And so... By the person pointing it out, yes. It's not supported by the person.
And so it's that person's fault now that George is having the conflict, not the identities that George is running.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to yourself.
To yourself, like you say, yeah. Flip that mirror around and look.
Call yourself George for a minute.
No,
Georgette.
For us girls. Yeah, and so that's kind of...
Yeah, so you can be sort of a curious George yourself, I guess.
Oh, you're so funny, Curious George.
And take a look at the identities. Our question to you today, and kind of leave you with a bit of homework here, is what are your supposed to's? What can you identify for yourself as the supposed to's that you tell yourself on a regular basis?
Not supposed to's.
Or not supposed to's, like when you feel kind of messed up or whatever, and you get something coming up for you. What is the not supposed to? What is not supposed to be happening here? And what do you think is supposed to be happening?
And that's what I call a trigger myself.
That's right.
When you're triggered, it's like you're definitely got a not supposed to and a supposed to story going on.
So if you want to challenge yourself a little bit, make a list, on a day-to-day basis. What's well, this could get...
You're like Kevin, you could be there weeks.
What's supposed to or not supposed to is coming up for you at any given moment, and just keep a list of it, and so you can maybe reflect on that later on after you've gone through it.
Yeah.
And of course, make some comments. Come back to us and let us know what you've discovered, and how you feel about all of that, and what's going on for you as you do that. We'd love to hear about it and get some discussion going with it and stuff. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's your homework for this week,
and be sure to subscribe. There's lots more to come. And
the identities are never ending.
Yeah, that's right. It's a lifetime process.
Well, it took a lifetime to collect them all, so now we have to,
Well, exactly, yes. You've spent your whole life building this story and these identities. So give yourself some time to go through them and discover them, learn about them, and learn what to do with them.
And one of the biggest things is don't think you're actually going to get over them, or you're going to find resolution. Actually, that's a huge thing, and maybe we'll touch on that on the next video, because that's a huge. But resolution, we all think it's there, but we will definitely touch more on the resolution on our next video here.
You betcha.
All right.
Right. Subscribe. See you later.
Take care.